People are always looking for cheaper used SUV. Here's an 04 Explorer. It was $1,500. Is it worth it? Is it a pile of junk? Or is it in between? We're gonna find out. Okay, we'll start by looking at it. It's reasonably good here. Of course, the paint's faded away. Well, what do you want for $1,500? It's got the 4-door. Tires are still good. Got a tow hitch. But when we come to this side, it's got a pretty serious bash here. Not in the greatest of shape. Really got whacked here. Well, it looks bad, but the frame or anything wasn't bent because it goes straight down the highway and doesn't wobble all over the place. So that's a good thing. That's one of the reasons that it only went for $1,500. Now, sometimes these can be decent vehicles. If you check under the hood, if the hood supports hold up, it might whack me in the head. I think I'll get a stick. Just like the Boy Scouts, my motto, be prepared. Now, as we look inside, it's got the Ford Venerable 6-cylinder engine. Got a timing chain in it. It's a pretty reliable engine. And as we go inside, the interior is a little worn, but I mean, what do you want for $1,500? The seat's still comfortable. Now, it does have 250,000 miles on it. Let's see how it starts up. Starts up okay. Let's check the AC. Hey, it's still blowing cold, but it does have various lights on. The ABS, seatbelt system, and the service engine light on. So let's get out the old scan tool. Let's see what it says. Well, it may be old, but it still reads the VIN number. And while we're waiting, you'll notice the AC doesn't work on 1, 2, 3, but it does work on 4. That generally means it needs a new blower resistor. They're not that expensive. But now we'll look at the data. Here we go. It knows what engine it is. We'll wait till it loads, and then we will check the codes. And here we go. It's scanning the codes. All right. It's got 2 trouble codes for the PCM and 1 for the ABS. We'll check the ABS because we really don't care that much about it on an old car like this. Read codes. Pretty cut and dry. Missing right rear wheel speed sensor input and left rear. So who cares? It probably doesn't work anyways, even if you did put sensors on it. What we really want to check is the powertrain control module problems. Let's see what those codes are. Read codes. And what do we have? EGR insufficient flow and a cruise control function. That's anti-pollution stuff. Not all that big of a deal, really. So I'm going to analyze the live data. That's really important on this old thing. Live data. Here we go. On this old thing, it's really important. We're looking for orange colors that are really bad data and any data that looks a little strange. We'll start looking through this. So far, everything seems pretty good. Even on this old thing, it may be 17 years old. You still get a lot of data. Good thing it shows no misfire currently detected. The data so far is pretty good for an old thing with 250,000 miles on it. Bunch of no faults, that's good. Now the injectors have faults. And as you can see here, the long-term fuel trim on bank 1, it's a V6 engine, so there's bank 1 and bank 2. It's adding a little bit of fuel, 1.56, sometimes a little bit less. But when we look at long-term fuel trim on bank 2, the other bank, it's higher. As you can see, it's going 4.29, sometimes a little bit higher than that. So you can see this one is adding a little bit more fuel. Now, if this was a Toyota or a Honda, it'd mean something, that there's something relatively big going wrong. But this is a Ford with 250,000 miles on it. I see this all the time. It's not going to idle perfectly, but it's good enough for this old thing. So let's keep looking on other data. Yeah, it's not going to idle perfectly, but what the heck. Now, just out of curiosity, let's check the max airflow sensor. You want it in drive, idling with the air conditioning turned off. Now, in this case, it's a little bit high. This is a 4-liter engine. It should be closer to 4 grams per second. The mass airflow sensor on this thing probably needs replacing. But they don't cost all that much. AutoZone, you get one for less than $100. They're not that expensive. So let's read on, see if anything else is weird. Sure, we haven't seen any orange stuff. Now you can see this is incorrect. Both oxygen sensors are staying lean. They're not going rich, lean, rich, lean. So this thing is running too lean. That could be fixed by a new mass airflow sensor and maybe power cleaning the fuel injectors. Not a deal beater. But it should be going rich, lean, and it's staying lean, which means it is running lean. But as we go on, there's no orange stuff. There's nothing that's totally bad. Transmission doesn't have any codes. So let's take it for a road test. But before we do, you can hear a little clicking. That's fuel injectors clicking. No big deal. The engine actually sounds quite solid. They'll often click with age as long as they run. There were no trouble codes for any of the 6 injectors, so they're working okay. Now we're gonna go down the road. Actually, it idles smooth as silk, and it takes off not all that badly, really. Shifts smoothly. We'll take it on the highway. Now we'll get on the highway here. Decent acceleration. And look, even though it's got that big bash in the side, it tracks hands-free, no problems at all. Well, I should put my hands back on so I don't run into one of these trucks. It shakes when you hit bumps, because it's old and the shocks are worn. But actually, it looks like it'd be a very reliable vehicle for driving around. It's really a shame that it's all bashed in, because otherwise it's in excellent shape. Of course, fixing this is 3 times what the vehicle's worth. And really, if you just show this side of the vehicle, what a deal for $1,500. You can only see one side of the vehicle at a time. And when you consider this is a classic rear-wheel drive, you don't have any of that crappy front-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive system you have to mess with. It's just got a simple front end. And if you don't like the faded headlights, they're just plastic. You can polish them if you want. These actually wouldn't pass inspection. They're too opaque. And if you want to do a little towing, go ahead. Just don't try going in the passenger right rear door. It doesn't close all that well. But as I said, that's there. The frame's inside. It didn't touch the frame. It didn't do any serious damage. Now you know the truth about a $1,500 Ford Explorer 4-door SUV. Well, if you haven't been following me or don't know, Ford lately has been plagued with problems in building their vehicles. This is a 2021 Ford Expedition, and the owner's got all kinds of problems with this thing from the day one. It was purchased new, and the tailgate's been having problems from day one, not shutting correctly. All kinds of warning lights have been coming on. Loses acceleration, especially when you're coming to a stop sign, stoplight, and have to take off. Understand, the level of technologies in these things is insane. Now, this is a V6 EcoBoost twin-turbo GDI engine with the infamous 10-speed automatic transmission that has 3 overdrives. Not like this thing was made in Mexico. As you can see, it was made in the USA. And you can see it's rear-wheel drive. But we're going to put on a scan tool and see what's happening with this thing, because they're getting all kinds of warning lights coming on, saying it's losing acceleration, taking off at slower speeds. We'll plug it in, easy to find the plug. See, it's got a bunch of stuff. Front camera, fault, pre-collision assist not available. Comfy regular cloth seats that will last forever. There's a lot of space in one of these things. Set up nicely and everything. Nice little blue colors and everything. But the problem is, it keeps acting up in lots of ways. Ford has quality controls, there's no arguing that, and this has had problems since the get-go. This was bought brand new. Been taken care of. It's just their quality isn't what it used to be. Expedition EcoBoost 3.5 liter automatic. So we're going to analyze it. Doing a scan, yeah, I mean they're well set up. Ergodynamically, a big old armrest. The cloth seats, but they're real comfy. Now here we go. You can see we got 5, 6, 7 faults, but the other systems are working. So we'll start at number 1, the driver's door module. Left blind spot warning indicator. That's why it's got some of these codes here that your pre-collision assist isn't available. Look at the image processing module. It's got 5 faults. And they all say control module, communication codes. As I said, these Ford Expeditions are extremely complex. They have many computer modules on them, and they are often known to get failures. Failure type 41, general checksum failure. Fault previously detected, but monitor has not completed the determined state. So it's got a problem in the module system, but it can't determine what it is. All right, they're not building that great. Obviously, the software isn't that great either. The software should be able to interpret the stuff, and it isn't. We're going to try to erase these things and then take it for a road test. Got rid of all the codes except for this one code here. So we'll check it out again. It's that control module code we had before. Internal electrical failure. If you can't erase the code to do a road test, that means that's a problem that exists somewhere in the circuitry. The ignition's on now. It knows there's a problem there, even without the car running. So the control module could be bad. The circuitry could be bad. Or you could have a short in any of the sensors that feed this thing. So let's start it up. And since they were saying the transmission acted weird, let's take it for a road test. Now, people are always kind of whining about these 10-speed transmissions acting up, slipping. We'll take it for a ride and see what happens with our computer hooked up for data. I can already see when I go to reverse to drive. Hear that clunk? Shouldn't clunk like that. That's off an internal transmission wear. I'm more a fan of the V8 ones. I'm not a big fan of these turbo V6s. They just don't have the feel of a V8. See if we lose any kind of acceleration going slow and then taking off. I can feel a little hesitation, but here's something that I find with these transmissions. Now turn itself off. I hate that stop-start stuff. That's just a bunch of nonsense. But a lot of it has to do with the 10-speed transmission with 3 overdrives, trying to get the best gas mileage. So we're going to do this. We'll push the drive mode button and we'll put it on sport mode. Now it's in sport mode. You can see the S there, sport mode. The sport mode will have much firmer shifts. You'll get a little bit worse gas mileage, but you're not going to get this hesitation when you're trying to take off at low speeds. So let's try it off here. We'll come kind of a roll and stop. It had no hesitation taking off then. So let's take it to our little drag strip. Low speeds, it's not doing any hesitation. Now, off to the drag strip while we're in sport mode. We look in the rear view mirror there, nobody's coming. So, we'll see how this thing takes off. Like I say, I like the V8s, but this is a twin turbo 6. It shifts good in the sports mode, but they can talk all they want. This does not have the pickup of a V8 engine whatsoever. In the sport mode, when you want to accelerate, you can see it's not lagging at all. And since there's no one behind us, we'll slow down. Brakes work good. And we'll do a little rolling stop go. And there's no hesitation now. Just a tiny little bit shift in there. Realize these 10-speed transmissions, they're a little on the squirrely side when it comes to lower end shifts, even in the sport mode, but the sport mode is much better. It doesn't have any transmission codes, it doesn't have any problem with the data. It's just when you have 10 speeds, even when you're in sport mode, they're a little squirrely between gears. But that's just how these things are. The vehicle itself is pretty quiet. Took turn signal off and even quieter. But I don't like that automatic start-stop, so I turned it off. So it's sitting nice and smooth, and I'm not messing around with the start-stop. Because watch, we'll turn the start-stop back on. It's going to stop itself. And we'll see what happens when the light turns green. It didn't have that much hesitation going from start to stop. This is a 2021, so it's not that lurchy like the earlier ones were. I just don't like it. I find it annoying, so I'm turning it back off again. Now if we switched it to eco mode, you can see the green down there. We switched it to eco mode. Now let's see what happens in eco mode. It had more of a hesitation starting up. You could hear it. So if you really want the best performance one of these, you really want to put it in sports mode and turn the automatic start-stop off. If you do want to get better gas mileage, go ahead, put it on eco. Have the start-stop engaged so it'll turn itself on and off. But me, I just don't go for that driving experience myself. It's much more drivable in the sport mode. Doesn't have the hesitation. So I took it for a road test, and the only code left is that one for the processing module. Probably why the pre-collision assist isn't working anymore. As we'll check it as it cycles through itself. Pre-collision assist not available. No, this is an XLT, which of course begs the question, would I pay $55,000 for this car? No, I wouldn't. I don't think it's got the quality. That kind of money, I wouldn't expect. Ready to have problems with a car that hasn't been wrecked or flooded or stolen or anything. But in terms of how the transmission works, it's pretty typical for these. It's not particularly shot, it's not particularly worn out. They just have a tendency of hunting for gears, which you can bypass using the sports mode instead of the economy or the normal mode. Now this thing gets around 17 miles a gallon in city, about 23 miles a gallon on a highway. Not phenomenal gas mileage, but it's a pretty big SUV. That's what you're going to expect. Which to me begs the question, why does it have a V6 then? It's not such great gas mileage. You put a V8 and a 10-speed on this, there's going to be all that much difference. Because this is a twin turbo V6. So it's a V6 engine that of course naturally has less power than a V8, but it's got 2 turbos, which have a little turbo leg, as all turbos do. So you combine that with the 10-speed transmission that hunts for gear, the driving experience really leaves quite a bit to be desired. Even when you have it in sports mode, it's a little bit wonky, but in normal driving mode, yeah, it's just kind of funky. Acceleration's kind of bizarre. I frankly would expect a better driving experience for $50-something thousand. That kind of money, I'd expect more than what this is putting out. And realize this thing is only 2 years old now. It's having electronic problems in modules already. Imagine what's going to happen when the dozens of modules get to be 8, 10, 12 years old and start to go squirrely electronically. On top of the twin turbo V6 gasoline direct injection EcoBoost system that this has. Very complex. When they break, they're very expensive and very hard to diagnose to find out what the problem is in the first place. But of course, ultimately, it's your car, your money, your choice. I'm just giving you my opinion of it after working on it for 54 years and seeing that Ford quality has been slipping quite a bit lately. I wouldn't have bought in this car. Not at that price. Not even half that price I wouldn't have bought it. Doesn't have what I would want for any kind of money, really. Not great gas mileage, but not great power, kind of wonky electronics. It's not for me. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.